The Indiana National Guard is the armed force of the state of Indiana. It consists of the Indiana Army National Guard and the Indiana Air National Guard, and is part of the larger Army National Guard and the Air National Guard, with roots dating back to 1801. The origination of the Guard was first began in 1846 during the Mexican-American War, and was reorganized into its current configuration in 1903. Since then the Guard has served at home and abroad as a part of multiple wars, disaster relief actions, and putting down strikes and riots. The Indiana National Guard consists of the 14,000-strong. Major commands include 81st Troop Command, 38th Infantry Division, Cyclone, 38th Aviation Brigade, 38th Sustainment Brigade, 76th Infantry Brigade, Nighthawk, 219th Battlefield Surveillance Brigade, to include the Indiana Air National Guard's 122nd Fighter Wing and 181st Intelligence Wing. The Indiana National Guard is supported by the state's official militia force, the Indiana Guard Reserve. The Indiana Guard Reserve is a military entity authorized by both the State Code of Indiana and executive order. The Indiana Guard Reserve is the state's authorized militia and assumes the state mission of the Indiana National Guard in the event the Guard is mobilized. The Constitution of the United States specifically charges the National Guard with dual federal and state missions. In fact, the National Guard is the only United States military force empowered to function in a state status. Those functions range from limited actions during non-emergency situations to full-scale law enforcement of martial law when local law enforcement officials can no longer maintain civil control. The National Guard may be called into federal service in response to a call by the President or Congress. When National Guard troops are called to federal service, the President serves as Commander-in-Chief. The federal mission assigned to the National Guard is to provide properly trained and equipped units for prompt mobilization for war, national emergency, or as otherwise needed. The governor may call individuals or units of the Indiana National Guard into state service during emergencies or to assist in special situations, which lend themselves to use of the National Guard. The state mission assigned to the National Guard is to provide trained and disciplined forces for domestic emergencies or as otherwise provided by state law. Indiana Army National Guard. The Indiana Army National Guard is composed of approximately 16,000 soldiers, maintaining 69 armories in 69 communities. Indiana Army National Guard units are trained and equipped as part of the United States Army. The same ranks and insignia are used, and National Guardsmen are eligible to receive all United States military awards. The Indiana Guard also bestows a number of state awards for local services rendered in it to the state of Indiana. Formations and units: 38th Infantry Division, 81st Troop Command, 19th Surf P, 215th Med, 113th Eng, 120th Pad, 387th Military Police Company, 384th Military Police Company, 219th Battlefield Surveillance Brigade, 2152 Cav. 2150 FA, 2219 BSC, 438th SIG, 76th Infantry Brigade, 113th Engineer Battalion, 138th Signal Battalion, 1st Battalion, 163rd Field Artillery Regiment, 1st Squadron, 152nd Cavalry Regiment, 151st Infantry Det. of the 38th Infantry Division, formerly Co. D. 151st INF. The unit was reorganized and reflagged as Troop C of the 2D Squadron, 152d Cavalry Regiment, 219th Battlefield Surveillance Brigade, 387th Military Police Company, 381st Military Police Company. Duties. National Guard units can be mobilized at any time by presidential order to supplement regular armed forces, and upon declaration of a state of emergency by the governor of the state in which they serve. Unlike Army Reserve members, National Guard members cannot be mobilized individually, but only as part of the respective units. However, there has been a significant amount of individual activations to support military operations. The legality of this policy is a major issue within the National Guard active duty call-ups. For much of the final decades of the 20th century, National Guard personnel typically served 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, with a portion working for the Guard in a full-time capacity. The current forces formation plans of the U.S. Army call for the typical National Guard unit to serve 1 year of active duty for every 3 years of service. More specifically, current Department of Defense policy is that no Guardsman will be involuntarily activated for a total of more than 24 months in one 6-year enlistment period. Indiana Air National Guard. The Indiana Air National Guard is part of the Air National Guard, which in turn is part of the Air National Guard of the United States, and a reserve component of the United States Air Force. It consists of one A-10 fighter squadron and one intelligence wing. The first is the 122d Fighter Wing, which is based at Fort Wayne International Airport in Fort Wayne. The other unit is the 181st Intelligence Wing, which is based at Air-Haute International Airport in Air-Haute. The 122d Fighter Wing consists of the 163rd Fighter Squadron, which flies A-10 Thunderbolt II. The 181st Fighter Wing used to fly the F-16 with the 137th Intelligence Squadron and has now been assigned a new mission as the 181st Intelligence Wing. History. The earliest warriors from Indiana predate European contact. French explorers did not reach Indiana until the end of the Beaver Wars in the 17th century. The French soon established trading posts and villages. These remote outposts were defended by local militia and Native American alliances. In 1778, during the American Revolutionary War, the militia of Vincennes, Indiana declared for the United States, and local militia Captain François Ride Busseron commissioned the first American flag in Indiana. The Vincennes militia and Piankashaw warriors resisted Lt. Governor Henry Hamilton, and in 1779 they supplied and supported United States forces under George Rogers Clark. These militias officially became associated with the United States on the 25th of July 1788, when Northwest Territory Governor Arthur St. Clair published a law organizing the territory's militias. The Indiana Army National Guard traces its unbroken history to 1801, when William Henry Harrison, governor of the Indiana Territory, formed a voluntary militia to defend against the aggressive actions of some of the Native American tribes in the vast territory. The Indiana Rangers were formed in 1807. The militia and Rangers participated in a major action in the 1811 Battle of Tippecanoe, and many participated in the invasion of Canada in the War of 1812. Many documents regarding the Indiana Territory's militia have been lost, especially during the capital moved from Vincennes to Corydon and then to Indianapolis. In one unfortunate incident, a janitor sold a wagon load of official militia papers as waste paper. Indiana units were first officially called to national action in 1840s to serve as part of the army for the invasion of Mexico during the Mexican-American War. An Indiana regiment played a critical role in the Battle of Buena Vista, a critical battle that routed the entire Mexican army and opened the way for a rapid occupation of the country. Indiana regiments were again called to national action in the American Civil War, the costliest engagement in terms of lives the state was ever involved in. Indiana in the war committed over 200,000 soldiers, and casualties topped 35% among the men. During the war, several regiments were mustered for duty on the home front, creating the Indiana Legion, which officially separated the militia from the Army regiments. Today's 152nd Infantry Regiment traces part of its history to the 6th and 8th Indiana Volunteer Infantry Regiments, which fought in the Civil War. The state's regiments were renamed the Indiana National Guard in 1895. Regiments from the Guard first went overseas in the 1898 Spanish-American War, serving in the initial occupation of the Philippines. The Militia Act of 1903 organized the various state militias into the present National Guard system. In 1916, units were mobilized to patrol the Mexican border in response to aggressive actions by the Mexican government, but no action occurred. The next year, the entire Guard was mobilized and many sent into action as part of World War I, most men being deployed to France. The Guard was again called on during the Great Depression to suppress worker strikes and riots in northern and central Indiana, and was sent overseas again during World War II. The Guard continued to see action in the second half of the 20th century, serving in the Korean War, Vietnam War, the Gulf War, and the Iraq War. Well-known Indiana Guardsmen include former Vice President Dan Quayle, who served as a sergeant during the Vietnam wartime period. Historic units: 138th Armor Regiment, 139th Field Artillery Regiment, 150th Field Artillery Regiment, 163rd Field Artillery Regiment, 151st Infantry Regiment, 152nd Cavalry Regiment,